This is the Passive 25K podcast, a podcast built around the vision of creating wealth through passive income for ourselves and others. The idea of creating income while you sleep seems like a dream come true, but for most professionals, turning this into a reality is a different story. On this show, you will hear real people breaking passive income streams down to the basics, giving you the next steps to start your own passive income journey. If you're new to the show, my name is Kyle Reedstrom from Fargo, North Dakota, where I get to work with my team of agents and investors each day to complete our goal of $25,000 a month in passive income. Now, let's get right into our next conversation. Hey, this is Kyle Reedstrom with the Passive 25K podcast. Glad to be here. Today we have Gavin Doppler with us. Gavin, you're on the other end there?
Yes, sir. Happy to be here.
Gavin, you called me before we started this, and you said you were gallivanting across the state of Wyoming. What are you doing out there? Tell us what's shaking out there.
So I am doing the opposite of passive income. I am chasing deals. I am a technology sales. You could say account manager, territory manager, or sales manager for a company based out of Fargo Moorhead that does a lot of work with the technology projects in K-12 school districts, colleges, banks, businesses, you name it. Anybody that needs technology, I am the sales rep for the state of Wyoming. So I'm getting in some FaceTime and planning some big network infrastructure bids for this summer. So
there you go. That's the kind of guy you want to have working for you, is the guy that comes to you even if you're in Wyoming, man. That's I give you credit. You're making it happen.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. It does go a long way, especially in some of the rural communities. Even rural communities need big time network infrastructure, especially for, school districts that technology is always changing and they need the backbone infrastructure to keep things growing. So I definitely love what I do. Sometimes it can be exhausting, but most of the time it's really rewarding.
That's great, man. That's great. And yeah, you're out doing it. You mentioned that it's your active life. That's your active work, right? That's what you're out doing with your time, energy, trading, time for dollars. And that's what we all have a revenue vehicle for that. But by night, or your other side, I was going to say your dark side, but in real estate investing is the light side, we will say. But tell us about that side of it, man. You've got this career. It's creating, you're hitting your goals, and that's a stable source of income for you. But you've dove into the real estate investing side. How did you get into that world in the first place, Gavin? What was the kind of what kicked you off the fence there?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I've always heard about people double dipping in a way, trying to do more with less. I guess the original idea was when you were in college and you took one class that hit two of your course requirements, or two separate requirements, right? Double dipping. And then I had friend that I was friends with in college. We're a lot closer friends now, and we're now business partners in some multifamily apartments in Fargo. But he ended up buying a fourplex in Moorhead, and he was living in one unit. And I remember going to that unit and him showing me around. He was redoing the floors. It was kind of a lower end multifamily. And I remember one of his tenants leaving the building and saying, "Hey, Brady," saying hi to him. And him kind of running the numbers roughly for me. I think they were renting at $700 a month times 4. Mm-hmm. It paid for him to live there. I thought that was the most brilliant thing anyone has ever done.
This was like the eyes wide open moment. Like, whoa.
Yeah. And then the second thing, which is a little bit more on the dark side, my dad passed in 2018. Every young man looks up to his father as like a superhero, right? And he was an entrepreneur. He owned his own business. He was successful for a lot of years, and technology kind of changed his business, and his businesses weren't doing as well towards the end of his life. And I was the executor of his estate that was very close to being insolvent. Meaning there wasn't enough, assets to cover the debts. The one asset that covered the debts that allowed our family to actually have a small inheritance was the real estate he owned. The house that he bought, that he owned for 27 years. And also my great grandfather's farmstead that was just deer camp, for many years, that, they never let go of. That was still worth a chunk of change. And that's what allowed his estate to not be insolvent, even though they weren't income producing properties, even though, he paid the mortgage every month. Those assets were the only pieces out of all the other stuff in his businesses, in his, personal things he owned that allowed his estate to not be underwater. And so that really made me think long term about real estate and kind of use it as a safeguard, as the foundation of what I think is kind of a secure long term investment, whether it's an income producing property or not.
Yeah, man. Well, Gavin, I appreciate you sharing that story, because it seems like there was a big light bulb that hit in that circumstance, saying, man, we can work hard, we can do all these things, we can have ups and downs in this career, in quotes, and you're finding out that after all of that, things change over time, and the one thing that was steady is the thing that you started diving deeper into, which is real estate. That's just a really cool thing that you came across. That's true. That's kind of how that worked out, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I had, and there was always these little like light bulbs that went on, but just the obscurity of what true rental property was still just like, I really didn't know anything about it. And I just started to like bug people like yourself.
Yeah,
like
I remember some coffees at Duncan or Dunn Brothers. Yeah.
Dunn Brothers. Yeah. They've got great breakfast sandwiches, but as you say, but I never really knew how powerful it could be and how much it could scale. And this was really before the time that I even had any money to invest, right? I was just trying to find an avenue to get into so that I could get started. So many of the ideas and the things that investors do when they're well into their career were so way ahead of me that I didn't even see them as important. I just focused on the one thing that I could do, which was really like house hack. And that is like, and when I was excited when you brought this to me, because I see it so much on a lot of different podcasts, YouTube videos, recommendations that this is the best way to get started. And it's not fluff. It's not just hype. It really is. I've done it not just once, but several times. And it is the key to what's allowed me to make more steps. And it started by, I always tell people, like buying a duplex before I had the money to.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
That is,
and it's like,
you hit a perfect spot there that we hear. And I know you hear it too, is I have an interest. I'm getting some light bulbs to hit, but I don't have all this knowledge. I don't have all this experience. I don't have all this money to do all these things. So then what happens? Well, there's really two routes. You either find options or you kind of get defeated. And one of the options, like you say, that you're keying in on, which I hope everyone heard, that this house hack stuff was an amazing access point for you, and it is not fluff. It's legit. And so before we get into that term came up, and it was, hey, what is a house hack? Okay, some people have never heard this, and I love that it's actually called a house hack, because I think hacks are kind of, they're kind of like, you hear the word hack and you're like, oh, a quicker, cooler way to do something. Okay, explain to us what a house hack is, Gavin.
So I used to think it was just about duplexes, separate units, but over the last few years, I've challenged myself, and it is a very real thing that can be just as lucrative. I think it's you owning an asset that you owning an asset that you live in, it serves your primary need. But then you also have rental income coming in there, whether it's covering, part of your mortgage, it's covering all of it, you're cash flowing on top of it, whatever. So to expand on that, it's not just the duplex. I buy a building that has 2 units. I live in one side, I rent out the other. But it can also be, I bought a single family and my brother rents out the basement. Or my college buddies all rent out a bedroom. There's a lot of different strategies you can learn about, whether it's vacation rentals or it's, traveling nurses or whatever, where you can rent out by bedroom, or you can rent out, for a short period of time, part of your single family house or part of your fourplex or whatever. So the way that I see it is you own the asset and rental income comes in one form or the other, depending on, how you set that up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's important. I'm glad you touched on that. It doesn't have to be in a box necessarily. We've seen people doing a house hack with the single family. Like you say, you're renting out other rooms. We've seen it with obviously the multi-unit duplex, threeplex, fourplex. The key, and I mean, this was key for you, the hack part is the low down payment part. It's the fact that you're going to be living there. It's the fact that you're the primary resident in the bank size, because what are we always trying to do? We're trying to make the bank happy with these in order for us to get access to opportunity, because we've got to borrow money. And so that's been key for you. I mean, that's been a huge thing for you to only have to put down, 3.5%. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. For my first one, I think I put 5% down.
Okay.
And then I did it under an FHA loan. So they actually ended up giving me credits at closing. That was basically a free loan that then got paid back as long as I lived at the property. Which that was a lot. That was like $5,000 they gave me towards closing credits. Right. And I could have I didn't need to do FHA. That's just one option. You can do a conventional low down payment loan, but the FHA, I'm kind of on the fence on whether it was the best deal or not. It ended up working out great for me either way. But now I realize, I look back, is that I actually got more of a down payment put into that. My payment was more manageable because I did have that assistance with the closing credits, or whatever they call those.
Yeah, that was okay. I want to key in on that real quick, because you had, now I might be mistaken, but for each state, there's sometimes down payment assistance that can go along with a low down payment loan. So you qualified for both. You had the lower down payment FHA loan product, and then you said, hey, I'm going to work with the state to get some of these credits based on my, the lender can get some of that from the state, and that got you in. So your down payment was down to, am I mistaken in saying you had zero money to come to the table with on your first deal?
No, I think I ended up putting down like $4,000 or something.
Okay.
Like I brought like $4,000 or $5,000 to closing. And then they ended up taking the rest.
Okay.
So,
There you go. So $4,000, we heard it here, the 4,000, and that got you into your first duplex.
Correct. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. Dude, okay, I want to dive into your first house hack. I want to get into some of the details, but we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and get into kind of the nitty-gritty on that first deal for you. All right, buddy?
Awesome. Sounds great.
Quick break from the action to introduce you to our community called Passive Income University. It can be unclear what the next steps are if you're really into this stuff. Our community is designed to educate you on each topic, give you downloadable tools you can start using day one, and create a forum for questions and answers from real experts. If you're curious about getting your passive income journey started, check us out at p25kg.com. All right, Gav, we're going to dive back into what we left with your first house hack. And we touched on some of the loan details and what your down payment. You said you only had $4,000 down to get into your first house hack. Walk us through, or just tell us the story about how you came across this, even when you decided that you were going to do this, and then what you end up finding.
Yeah, so I got kind of lucky, but as you said during a conversation we had a couple weeks ago, if you keep asking for it, you keep asking yourself for it, and you keep asking others for it. it usually comes to fruition, right? So my first step was I started telling everybody I knew what I was looking for, just in a casual way, kind of a life update. A lot of the time people ask, this is going on a tangent, but I'm going to do it anyways. A lot of the time people ask, what do you do? Like, what do you do for a living? Like, that's the most common thing people ask, try to get to know you. What I like to ask sometimes is like, what are you excited about? Like, what's your next step? What are you planning? So, you can talk about yourself in a concise way that helps people help you, right? And so it's kind of funny, but I started telling everybody I was looking for a duplex. I'm looking to buy my first property. I'm going to live in it. I'm going to fix it up. I'm going to be a great landlord to whoever rents out the other units. It doesn't need to be a duplex. It doesn't need to be a fourplex. It just needs to work, right? It needs to be a good place for me to live and that I can rent their side on. So oddly enough, I was telling a client of mine who's a network administrator in Fargo Moorhead, one of my clients, that I was looking for a duplex. We're friends. We were talking in passing. And he told me, well, I live in a duplex right now. My mom owns it and she's an agent. She's going to be selling it soon. We're actually moved out of it already. It just got a brand new roof. The whole upper unit just got remodeled because it had water damage and Nodak Insurance took care of everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like, this is the best scenario that could happen. They're like, yeah, the lower unit's already rented. And the upper units could be ready for you to move in. Upper is 3-bed, 1-bath. Lower is 2-bed, 1-bath. It's in West Fargo. It's in a good neighborhood by the high school. So we just started talking, so technically this is an off-market deal. Haven't found one since. But so I got pretty lucky with my first opportunity, being that I was so focused on telling everybody an opportunity presented itself. So we agreed on a price of, I think it was 180 for the duplex. This was 2018. So that was kind of around what I thought I could get to be like 1% rule. For renting, I thought I could get 1,800 in rents for both of the units. So with that, we put a closing date on the calendar. I actually had an agent help me just write up, the paperwork. I paid him a fee to do that. And before I knew it, we were closing at 180. And I was moving into the upper units and getting it ready for rent. And before I get too far ahead of myself, I didn't know if you wanted me to cover any other details on that, Kyle.
No, man, I think that is, I love that you went on the tangent to say that you started to get excited about it, which I see a lot of excitement in this world of real estate investing. But telling people about it in conversation as you're passing, that's what led to your success in finding this first deal. I think that's brilliant, and it's a good philosophy to kind of carry with you. That was really good. And then I think the crucial part that you'll always hear me saying, I'm always harping on this, I think people get analysis paralysis in this game so often, and the scales have to be evenly weighed with analyzing and prepping and action. And for you to take action when you got a lead, you're talking about it, and all of a sudden somebody says, hey, I think I have this. And you're like, whoa, okay. And you didn't get gun shy. You went for it, man. I love it.
Right. Absolutely. And some of the conversations I had with them up to that point, they were doing all of these rehabs, expecting that they were going to put it on the market. And I wanted that minor rehab experience. I wanted to update a unit and see the feedback that I got from potential renters on, well, if 3-bed, 1-baths in 2018 are renting for $900 a month, how could I get it to rent for $1,000 or $1,100? Do I need to paint the cabinets? Do I need to update flooring? What do I need to do? And that was kind of a learning process for me. And it was a cool scenario where the upper unit was completely renovated and the lower unit was incredibly gross, right? And the lower unit was renting for like way less than it should have. And the upper unit had more bedrooms. It had the slide out glass deck with the yard. It was the one that you wanted to rent out. So I slept on the floor in the upper unit for a few weeks while I moved out the lower unit tenants, thinking that where is my value add going to come from? It's going to come from making this lower unit rent go from 500 a month to 850. And it needs paint, and that's pretty much it. And it needs paint and carpet. And we did those. And now that unit, and then so I ended up living in that unit for a couple of years while the upper unit was renting and almost covering my mortgage based on the rent that was set at the time.
Oh man. And that's okay. So do you consider yourself a handy guy, Gavin? You're sales, you're in sales, you're dressing up, you're meeting with clients. You're not a contractor, but you still have some work to do. And I think people get scared of that. But how did you attack this, the work that needed to be done, right? Because I think in retrospect, you made a perfect move in saying that's where your value's at.
Right. Yeah. I am absolutely not a handy guy. I had trouble holding the flashlight for my dad when he was being the handy guy. Like I could barely do that part. Right? So, and I still to this day am not, and I still don't let that get in the way of what an opportunity is for me. The same way that I can't, I sell very high-end enterprise quality networking solutions that take really, really deep technical knowledge to implement and to manage. But I don't know that information. But I know a lot of people, and I'm very intentional about, working with those people and building those relationships and being and creating a win-win, so that everybody can win in that scenario. My client can win, Bytespeed can win, our partner product solution can win, the engineers can win. So the same way, that's the same methodology that I took into, okay, well, this unit is really, really ugly, right? Well, what do we need to do to make this unit not ugly and to rent more? I'm in a different situation than a lot of people are. I've always wanted to be a businessman. I've always wanted to sell technology. Like since sophomore year of high school, when I joined DECA, I knew that I was going to be in a role like I am at Bytespeed right now. And my ability to scale my income there's a huge opportunity with my main job. And so for me, it's more cost effective and allows me to scale faster if I make money and then I pay somebody to do the work that I don't know how to do. Whether that's, a lot of guys lay their own carpet, do their own flooring. A lot of guys that are like very wealthy, that own a lot of real estate and also, make a lot of income from their W-2, they choose to do that. I've just kind of made the conscious decision that I'm not going to do that. So what other things do I need to be better at? I need to develop a network of people that I know that can handle those. And I need to communicate with them effectively. And I need to create a win-win for both of us. And then I can have people that know how to do those things at the ready. Maybe I'll pay a little bit more. But in the same regard, I didn't spend that time. And the job got done well. And so it's a constant battle of me pushing and pulling of, well, Gavin, you should probably really do that and save the grand on labor. Or Gavin, you should probably go back to work and take really good care of your clients and just make that grand to pay that contractor to do it. So not everyone's in that situation. So I think it's important for people, whether they are handy and hands-on, or they want to kind of follow my strategy and not be hands-on, for them to at least understand scope of work. Who you need to call, what an average price of that looks like, for you to understand actually the scope of work, so you're not getting taken advantage of, and that you are getting quality work done by quality people that you can hopefully have do that work for you again on your next project. But
yeah, man, that is, building the team around you is so important. And I mean, we're here to talk about passive income, and that comes down to eventually taking your hands off the wheel and getting there. Now, we talk a lot about building sweat equity and getting experience through actually doing the work. But how many people have I come across where they continue to keep a finger or two on the wheel and nothing ever turns passive for them, and they get burnt out? And so I love that you said you made a conscious decision. But at the same time, I really want to honor you in the fact that you put your investor hat on at the same time, without having all of the tools, all of the knowledge, all of the experience, you still said, the way that I'm going to make this investment work is by making that unit better. However, I got to do it. And that's the thing, that there's a lot of investment turnkey investments out there, and they end up costing a lot of money because they're turnkey. And if we decide that every single investment or opportunity that comes across our plate probably has a moment where you got to put your investor hat on, and you got to turn a knob here, turn a knob there, and then after you're done, you look like the genius, Now everybody looks at that thing and they say, "Man, this is awesome. What a snag." But, people might have walked through that basement unit and said, "Oh, this thing's a dump. That's a lot of work," and look where that would have got them,
Right.
But hey, I want to fast forward and I want to understand where this has vaulted you into in your real estate investing side of things as you continue to create more passive income into your world. So take me through a timeline here of, you got this one down, you got it stabilized, and tell our audience where you're at now with the real estate investing side of things.
Yeah. So 2018, I bought the West Fargo duplex. I got the upper unit rented out. I was living in the lower unit, and then I also rented out a bedroom. I was traveling 30-40% of the time at bite speed. So I wasn't really home very much, and I just bought a little cargo camper. So then I rented out the other bedroom at my place, embarrassingly enough. So I was living in the cargo camper in my driveway while my two buddies rented out the bedroom. So I was saving a lot of money at the same time that my income was growing up from massive efforts at my main sales job. So then my goal was to continue to save money, right? So my next step, so a connection that I have, that I've, who's a good friend of mine, but I've also been very intentional about getting closer to him and communicating with him about how I can bring him value. He syndicates small multifamily apartments in Fargo. And I was really attracted to being a smaller owner in a larger property, because of the way that he runs these syndications, is part of them in terms of he's an investor in those. And then he's also the main property supervisor, property manager for all of the properties in this property management portfolio. So he has unique insights in the health of the financials of the property that they plan to buy before we buy them, right? So there's
definitely a contact that's a contact that was really, that you could really lean into his brain and then obviously, like you said, add value to him as well. Right.
And really the value that I could provide is cash. Right. So that was where I was solely focused on saving up enough money to become a 25% partner in a 12-plex. I wanted to diversify before I even had really a real estate portfolio. I wanted to go, okay, well, I manage this one myself, but my partner manages this one. And, the bigger 12-plex, it cash flows really well, but, I would never really want to live there, right? Because it's kind of a lower end apartment, but it serves a market. There's always going to be people that need to rent a one bath for $650 a month. That was a market that I wanted to be part of, but I wanted to rent out, the stuff that I own. I want to, rent a 2-bed, 1-bath for $900 a month. That's a nicer unit because I don't mind managing those kind of tenants. So that worked out really well. I get owner statements for that property. I think we've owned it together for 3 years now. We're on a, 5-year commercial note, that'll get refinanced eventually. We've actually already had offers on that property for quite a bit more than we bought it for. Loan pay down has happened. Property updates have happened. Cash flow savings have happened. So we're really happy about that. And I just drive by and wave at the property. I don't mow the lawn. I don't shovel snow. So that's been really awesome. And then I just kind of filled a personal need, and I kind of took 1 year off of investing. I wanted to buy a property every year, but I just used it to save up as much cash as I could. And Kyle, I know we were in conversations at that point. I was working with banks to understand how I could put another low down payment loan down. Investors using the conventional loan, primary residence, kind of loan terms, those are the best, right? I mean, you get 30-year fixed, low interest rates right now. If it's your primary residence, like, why wouldn't you do that if you can do that? So my West Fargo duplex was in that FHA loan, right? It said that I had to live there. They had paid down that $5,000 closing credit, that interest-free loan they gave me that went right into my equity. They said, well, you got about $3,000 to pay that off, right? And I thought, well, if I can't refinance this into a different commercial loan, into a different conventional loan that will allow me to then go out. My issue was I couldn't get another conventional loan. Lenders were telling me, you can't do another 5% down on a single family or 15 down on a duplex. We can't give you these conventional terms because you have that FHA loan that says you're supposed to be living there, even though I wasn't living. I was living in Bozeman, just seeing. So the conversation I had with you, this is my step that was really important that allowed me to do my third deal, was working with a commercial lender. Because commercial lenders, there's just less BS you have to go through because it operates like a business, right? They look at it from a different lens than a conventional lender will. That was the easiest loan I've ever done, right? So I did a 7-year note at a little higher interest rate, but still really good interest rate. It lowered my payment, and then it allowed me not only that, but it allowed me then to go get another conventional loan and do another house hack.
Yeah.
So West Fargo,
you open that, you unchecked that box again, so now you can act. Yeah, that's important.
Yep. Because I wanted to do a house hack. I told myself that I'd be willing to overpay if I could house hack again, because I control the variables. I'm still creating a savings account for myself by not having to pay as much or building up cash reserves by paying myself my rent. And I'm not a single guy anymore. So I wanted a nice place for my girlfriend and I, where we could have the nice upper unit, remodel it however we wanted, and live there and still have rental income covering it. Because I just can't get myself to buy a single family house.
Yes. That's good.
Myself.
You wanted to do it again, man. You wanted to get in on this again. And so, what happened?
Yep. So we found that South Fargo duplex. So some backstory that I'm kind of telling a lot of people that are looking to get into the game is like, be prepared. Kyle, I know my journey to this newest duplex that we closed on last summer was kind of ugly, but either way it worked. I was prepared to take action, even if I was a little bit, even if I jumped the gun a little quickly on the first two that I ended up backing out on. But I was prepared. I had a pre-approval letter in hand for the property, and we walked the property the day that it hit the market. And I either put in an offer or I moved on. And so this duplex, Jory Kennedy saw on the MLS, or the morning that it hit. I texted Jory. He lined up a walkthrough for the first day that they could have walkthroughs. I submitted an offer for asking price, which a lot of investors would say is, you paid asking price. Where's your upfront equity? That's not a good deal. You overpaid. That didn't matter. I already spelled out what parameters I wanted in a property. It's not if it works for the investor and it looks good on paper. It's if it works for me. And this one did work for me because I wanted to accomplish another house hack. I wanted to buy a healthy property that wasn't run down. I didn't want to do a bunch of CapEx. I didn't really want CapEx to be within the first 5 years of the property of me owning it. So I was willing to pay more, and I wanted to kind of I basically wrote out on a piece of paper, I want to buy a duplex. I want the unit that I don't live in to rent out for $1,000 a month or more. I want to have my own garage, and I want to be able to update the unit that I'm living in to get more rent than it would how it is now. So the unit that we moved into looked like the 1970s, and we overspent in updating flooring and paint. I hired out the flooring and we did all the paint, which is easy, right? I mean, how much does paint cost you? How much does, a case of beer and inviting your buddies over to paint the trim cost you in the long run? And that unit is now renting for $1,300 a month. The lower unit's at $1,100. So even though I thought I overpaid at $240, it's now operating at $2,400 a month. And me putting 15% down on that one, I'm actually cash flowing really well. Probably $200 a month in the winter, being that you can't split heat on that, and probably more like $350 or $400 in the summer. So it's not a crazy awesome deal, but I would say it's the kind of property that is definitely worth the investment for my strategy. So,
man, that so many nuggets in what you just said, man. So much great advice. And I want to kind of close out with people listening to this that are curious about passive income. They've seen stuff out there. They know people that are doing it. You know, what advice do you have for them after they've heard your story and some of the different things that you've mentioned?
I would say like completely ignore the naysayers and like talk to somebody that's owned a building for more than 5 years, or more than like a few years, even in a good market. Because there's always going to be tell you, well, you don't want to be dealing with tenants. Like you don't want to be, fixing a toilet at midnight. You don't want to be doing all this stuff. And that's kind of like, that's just annoying to me. A second thing too is like, everybody has a 9 to 5, right? And like, this is your side hustle, right? Like if you spend 6 hours updating a unit, that could create income for you for the rest of your life. And then I guess my third thing is, don't think about buy and hold rentals as, oh, I'm going to make so much money in the first 2 years. I'm going to sell it. I can't wait to sell it and cash out. Like, don't think about the traditional American mindset of, oh, I bought a house and I sold it in 2 years and I made all this money and I got taxed like crazy and all of this. The buy and hold strategy is not like get rich quick. It's like get rich for sure, really slowly. So when you're running your calculations, and you can use Bigger Pockets or you can use a rental income, buy and hold analysis calculator, look at the 10-year mark, right? And like, look at the like long-term gains that you're going to realize from loan pay down, from rental increases, from tax benefit, and from cash flow. If your property is not cash flowing now because the units aren't rented as high as they should be and they look terrible, or even, you bought it at an okay deal and whatever, and something, think about how much the spread between what your mortgage is going to be and how much rent you're going to be making in 5 years or 10 years. That's where your passive income, I think, really gets created from these small multifamilies. So that I think, to sum it up, forget the haters.
That's right. That's what I'm writing down. Forget the haters.
And think long term. Yeah.
I mean, I love that. I can't tell you how many times I've done the calculation where it's like, oh, this property does $400 a month in cash flow. And that's not an exciting number, but then I run it out 12 months and say, that's $4,800 a year. And what if your boss gave you a $4,800 raise, on a standard salary? You're pushing 6, 7, 8, 10% sometimes on a raise like that. And you'd be excited about that, but you can, but yeah, I love what you said there, man. Great advice. Gavin, for everyone listening to you talk about this, where do they find you? Where can they find you? Where can they keep up to date with you and what you're doing? Yeah.
So I'm probably the most active on LinkedIn. Okay. That's where there's a great way to network in that way. Messaging's easy. Content creation's easy. So I'm usually posting a lot on LinkedIn. For the personal stuff, Facebook, I don't really use, I have an Instagram. I usually just post pile pics of geese on there, but
that's right.
But Facebook is where I'm more communicative about kind of the personal investing stuff that I do. And I am working on just kind of like a recap video on that South Fargo duplex renovation that I hope to have up in the next couple of weeks. So,
dude, that is so awesome, man. I want to say this. I remember having conversation with you when you were a novice at this, where you had a lot of questions, and I hear you speak now, and you are just full of energy, excitement, experience, wisdom in this category. I hope you see that in yourself. And dude, we just love watching everything you're doing with your energy. You're excited about this stuff. You're helping other people. You're adding value to other people as you go along, which has always been so important to us. And so I just want to give you a tip of the hat on that side of things too, man, and just keep rolling. Don't, no fear in your eyes. I always love that. And don't stop, man. I'm excited to stay on the journey with you.
Awesome. Much appreciated. I appreciate being a part of this, and thank you for everything you guys are doing too. You've answered a million questions. You've helped me open doors that I couldn't seem to get open. And I know that that's going to continue throughout the years. So
awesome, man. Well, hey, appreciate it. Get back to it, and we'll talk soon, buddy.
Awesome. Sounds great, Kyle.
This has been the Passive 25K podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Also, tell us what you thought by leaving a comment below on today's topic. If something really hit with you, don't be afraid to share this with someone else that's interested in passive income. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you next time for another episode of the Passive 25K podcast.